Hello and welcome to the Southern Star's Coronavirus podcast. I'm the editor, Con Downing.
And I'm the manager of Southern Star Creative, Niall O'Driscoll.
And every week we talk to people at the centre of the coronavirus pandemic in West Cork and beyond. We also take a look at that week's Southern Star newspaper and how our reporters all around West Cork are covering the pandemic and other stories too. Also on this week's podcast, Niall, here we'll be talking to Blarney singer, songwriter and stonemason Mick Flannery, who is doing a very generous deed with the proceeds of his new album to help his band and crew who have been off work due to the COVID-19 pandemic restrictions. And to finish off, we'll have an extra special musical treat for you. You might tell us about that, Niall, please.
Well, I suppose it's probably an obvious one in one sense. Mick Flannery performed a very special, a new song, he wrote during the pandemic, during the quarantine, and he sang it specially for us on the podcast.
Very good. We look forward to that later in the podcast. But first, let's take a look at this week's Southern Star.
Now, on the front page, Conor, our lead story is by Emma Connolly and Kieran Manny, and it's got quite an eye-catching headline. It says, "Gagging for broadband."
Yes, it's about Gaggin just outside Bandon, it seems, and it's the people there live in a valley, and there's about 100 houses there that can't get proper broadband, and this seems to be a very big problem for people working from home. So they have to find some way of getting broadband. So they have to go into the church car park in Bandon in the morning, work until lunchtime, until the batteries on their computers die, go home, recharge the batteries, come back again in the afternoon to do most work. That's not very satisfactory, Niall, is it?
It's not, and it sounds like something it sounds fairly stressful. I mean, it's hard enough working from home under these conditions, but to have to do that it's bizarre, really, isn't it?
It is. Emma Connolly has a few case studies in various people, and you can see from reading it that they're at breaking point really over this. It is very difficult indeed. No, there's another story on page 1 about the voting intentions of local Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael public representatives as the parties look to ratify the historic coalition agreement made with the Green Party.
Yeah, there's four local councillors. There's 2 Fianna Fáil and 2 Fine Gael, and they're saying they're reflecting what the constituency is saying to them, what the people on the grassroots, I suppose, really are saying to them about this coalition with the Greens, and they're not happy, and they're going voting against it as part of there's a kind of an online group called Fairer Future, which I think Fianna Fáil are involved in, and there's dissent on at the grassroots level, I think, isn't there?
There seems to be an element of it, all right. The 4 councillors too are well spread out around West Cork, because you've got Deirdre Kelly in Dunmanway and Sean O'Donovan in Bandon from Fianna Fáil, and then on the Fine Gael side voting against it, their particular proposal are Karen Coakley in Skibbereen and Councillor Kevin Murphy in Kinsale. So there seems to be a bit of dissent widespread. Although, funnily enough, the person that we expected would be voting against it because of statements he previously made was Councillor Joe Carroll from Skibbereen. And actually he says he's voting for the pact. So that's a big turnaround.
Interesting.
Yeah. On page 3 then, there's another interesting story about the rather disgusting reason given for the withdrawal of paper and cardboard and plastic recycling facilities at Cork County Council's Bring site in Dunmanway.
Yeah, it's about contamination of the dry recyclable waste, I suppose, really. I suppose that there's food waste going into it, but more disturbingly, there's reports of used dirty nappies being wrapped up in cereal boxes and things like that, and it means they can't really deal with that as recyclable material anymore.
That's right. I believe that the company who's employed to take the stuff away is balking at doing this anymore because of the fact that there's something like a 15% contamination level in the dry waste that's or supposedly dry waste that's being recycled in Dunmanway. So it's something that they'll have to get a lot stricter about, because but that's very difficult too, because the site is just opened in the morning by a council employee and closed again in the evening, and there's no supervision in there during the day. as there is in some of the other bring sites around West Cork, civic community sites. But then they charge to get in, whereas it's free access in Dunmanway. So they may have to look at that.
And I suppose the problem is the handling of that waste afterwards, and the sorting of it then leads to quite considerable additional cost in terms of that handling, doesn't it?
It does, and it doesn't eat into any profits that the recycling company who collects it are potentially making out of being involved in this. Well, we'll move on further, Niall, to page 9 of this week's Southern Star, and we feature a rather disturbing story by Jackie Keogh about racism in West Cork, which has come into focus, of course, very much after the riots across the United States, following recent killings of unarmed black men by police officers.
That's right. There's a quote from Sana Govender, who's a development officer with Munster Rugby, actually, and he grew up in Skibbereen. He's of South African Indian descent himself, and he came to Ireland with his family as a child. His dad came here to work for the ESB, and he has reported throughout his life being the victim of racist slurs, both on and off the pitch as a rugby player. And he's well positioned to speak about it, I suppose, because he has degrees in psychology and he's also a life coach himself. So he's a very as I say, he's well positioned, and he knows. I'm going to say he knows what he's talking about, but
yeah.
He can,
well, he's certainly not the sponger from the state that some people have jibed him about being. He's a guy who's paying his way and is a very popular man here in Skibbereen as well too.
Very much, yeah, and it's disappointing. I suppose it would be naive to assume that there isn't racism everywhere, I suppose, but it's just disappointing when you do hear about it on your doorstep, I think, because we like to think of West Cork as being a very welcoming place.
Yes, I think generally it is. I think the racism is probably the exception rather than the rule, but any small bit of it at all is not tolerable.
No, it's not.
On page 2, some good news for drinkers. Well, I suppose they've got to be eaters as well as drinkers. Kieran O'Mahony talks to some West Cork publicans who've been getting ready to reopen on Monday week now, June the 29th. They can reopen if they're providing an adequate main course meal, I think to the value of €9. And they're hoping that 1 metre social distancing will make it worthwhile for them also.
There is a little bit of ambiguity about that 1 metre distancing though, isn't there? If your premises is big enough, then the 2 metre rule applies. If your premises is smaller, then the 1 metre rule apparently applies. It doesn't seem to make that much sense.
No, there is ambiguity, as you say, but I presume that most people, as far as possible, probably go for the 1 metre rule so they can fit more people in. And I suppose there's a few other factors involved now in the setup as well too, in that you will also have the time allowed for people to get in and out. It's meant to be an hour and a half, which I think they're going to extend slightly. They're going to make it a 2-hour window, and there'll be 15 minutes for sort of getting yourself in and getting yourself organised, and another 15 minutes afterwards for the staff to sanitise the table you're at. So if you want to go for a few pints and a bite to eat now, you're going to have to book ahead, and it's going to be a big sea change for a lot of people.
It does sound very complicated, and well, I've often thought that the kind of spontaneous nights out or the spontaneous meeting of friends in the pub tends to be better fun very often than the one that's organised, whereas now it looks like we're going to have to organise everything far in advance.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's going to kill it for the time being. Well, hopefully they'll find a vaccine before too long, and that maybe we might be able to get back to our good old ways or bad old ways or whatever way they were.
If the fine weather continues, beer gardens are going to become very valuable property, I think, aren't they?
Yes, definitely. They are indeed. Speaking of the great outdoors, on our farming pages, we have part 2 of the findings of the Southern Star's 2020 Great West Cork Farming Survey. There's plenty of insight into what local farmers think about Brexit, other issues as well, like farm safety, farming as a way of life, are they adequately rewarded for their work, rural isolation, mental health, advice for young farmers, etc. But one of the issues that they seemed most exercised about was this new round of CAP negotiations, and the big thing that they wanted out of that was
what they've described as the armchair farmer. I think they want the EU to stop. When I say they mean the respondents. They would like the EU to stop funding the so-called armchair farmer and give the younger farmer who's looking to make a proper living out of the land, give them the support as they're coming up the ranks.
Yeah, that's very important as well, because a lot of them are struggling to make a sustainable living, and really they're the people that are more in need of the support than the ranchers. But there's loads in this survey, and it's worth having a read of pages 16 and 17 of this week's Star to check out all the issues that they're giving their opinions on. So moving on, Niall, was there anything in the life section that caught your eye?
Well, there's I was going to say a wonderful human interest story, but it's not really. It's quite a sad story, actually, on the front of the life section about a lady who works in Clonakilty Hospital. Her mother is in a care home, but sadly, this lady, her own father was in Clonakilty Hospital. He contracted the coronavirus, and he died in the hospital. And she was working there, and all this was happening at the same time. And she's afraid of her life to go and visit her mother because she's afraid she'll pass on the virus or whatever. It's quite a heart-wrenching story, I suppose, really, isn't it?
No, it is indeed. Actually, I think her mother is living with a relation, but
sorry.
she still can't go to see her mother, hug her mother. She can go and probably see her through a window, but it's obviously not the same thing. But she also talks in the story about how well people in Clonakilty Community Hospital had pulled together during the COVID-19 crisis, because they really had a torrid time over there. There were 10 deaths from COVID-19, and the staff really had a very, very difficult job coping with everything. But to their credit, they did it, and I think it's very, very much appreciated by the people of Clonakilty and the wider area, because it's not something you could have anticipated, and they really dealt with it very well. So top marks to this lady and to all the staff of Clonakilty Community Hospital, and indeed all the other community hospitals. And it's great to note in the report as well that Clonakilty Community Hospital is COVID-free at the moment, which is very good. Yeah, absolutely.
Great to hear.
So we move on next to another story in the life section, and this is Emma Connolly's Diary of a Demented Home Worker. It reaches its 14th week this week, and Niall, tell us how she's coping.
Well, she's still demented, but it's funny because on the one hand, she's complaining about the issues behind lockdown and that we're all locked down, what we're having to deal with. But very interesting, even in the opening part, she questions that now, since the restrictions have started to lift, that maybe we're actually moving too quickly. And the concern is that, well, that we'd all have, is that we'd have a second wave, or that people maybe just get a little bit complacent. But she does make the point, all right, that she was out with her family for a walk, and she met with some friends that they hadn't met, obviously, for quite a while. And she had her very first takeaway coffee in 3 months. And we both know that Emma is quite fond of her takeaway coffees. So to go 3 months without it was something. And she said meeting those friends, having that coffee, made her feel 300% better. So, I suppose there's for and against, but we'll just take things slowly was the message, I think, in terms of the restrictions.
That's good, but she is anxious, all right, that they make up their minds about the children going back to school in September. I think she's. I think the headline is "Teachers Leave Us Adults Alone."
That's right. Well, I think her point there is, and a point well made, is it's probably going to be very difficult for some people to continue, and she even cites herself, I suppose, really, to continue working from home if the children can't go back to school, because just the issue of childminding and such is huge. So there is an issue. She makes a little bit of a joke about it, but at the same time, it's quite a serious issue as regards what will happen in September. And she's just looking for clarity sooner than later, and to stop maybe some of the little rumours or the little snippets of information, get the thing sorted, and then tell us about it.
Yeah, I think she'd like to see the Department of Education officials and the teachers' unions get in behind closed doors
Yes,
and trash it out once and for all for the clarity that's needed for everybody
and
involved.
she is mindful. She's not really having a cut at the teachers because she's quite closely related to a teacher, and she's so she's being careful there too.
Good. Well, thanks, Niall. And don't forget, if you can't get to the shops to buy the paper, you can subscribe online by going to southernstar.ie and clicking on the e-paper tab, or call the Southern Star office on 028 21200 for a postal copy to be sent out to you. But first, before we go on, we have this week's interview. Niall here spoke to Blarney-based singer-songwriter Mick Flannery about his new album, which is due for imminent release. And here is what they talked about.
Hi, Mick Flannery. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you,
Where,
Matt?
I'm not too bad. No, thank you. Where are you these days?
I'm in Ennis, County Clare. I've been here for the last 6 or 7 years, I'd say.
Right. Okay. And how are things up there at the moment? How has the lockdown been treating you? If that's not a
It's fine. I mean, we have a backyard here. I go out there quite a bit. And, tip around with wood and stuff like that.
Brilliant.
And I've been, it's been good for me, I guess, because of what I do. This is the type of thing that people in my business force themselves into. Do you know?
Sure.
This kind of exile is what they actually kind of talk about in interviews after they make albums. Oh, I went to the Aran Islands for 3 weeks and I spoke to no one. That's the type of thing that people self-impose when they want to be creative or something. So this is, I suppose, it's just.
And has it been a creative time for you? Have you been writing? Have you been?
I have, yeah. I've been finishing off a lot of things that were half baked in the past, and I guess the days are longer in some sense. And I have been doing these regular phone calls with a woman, Anna Eggy, in New York. She's a writer in New York, and we seem to work very well together. So we speak for about an hour, 4 or 5 times a week.
Wow,
and we chip away at songs,
And are you passing files backwards and forwards, and recorded files and stuff?
Yeah, recorded demos, and like this time as well has given me a chance to be less slow with that type of stuff. I have a Focusrite, a thing that I kind of knew I should always had got, but
sure.
It's for recording, just a level above the phone recording.
Sure, yeah.
Which I'm enjoying that. All right, to be honest, messing with that.
And I mean, has the lockdown has been, I mean, for everybody it's been difficult, I suppose. But I mean, you're obviously finding it okay. I mean, that you're keeping yourself busy and you're keeping yourself, as you say, it's the kind of thing that writers and artists look for a lot of the time.
Yeah, I've found it all right. I mean, it's something about it feels more natural than what was happening before.
Okay, interesting. And what would you have been? I mean, in ordinary circumstances, what would you be doing now? I mean, had you a tour planned? Would you have been abroad, or?
Well, I definitely would have been saying yes to various gig offers, and
sure.
I over the last few years, I would be away most weekends to do gigs and to take the opportunities that were coming, and I guess some of that was prospective traveling to
sure.
new territories where you'd have to kind of build an audience, I guess. So flying to Canada and flying to America, all of which I really like doing.
The traveling itself as such, you like?
The experiences, I guess, and
Sure,
the not knowing of how it's going to go, and
sure,
putting
sure.
putting your best foot forward for strangers, fresh audiences and fresh ears, and
Always exciting, yeah.
yeah, and then when placed into context with how life is at the moment, I guess it makes you think about how much of a footprint you're leaving,
Sure,
you
sure.
know, and is it really necessary? Like,
That's a very kind of a philosophical, kind of a deep way of looking at it for sure. It's um,
well, I mean,
I suppose things have, that things have contracted a bit, haven't they? I mean, we probably are paying more attention to, I was going to say the finer things in life, but the smaller things, the everyday things seem to become very much in focus again, don't they?
yeah, I know. Like, I live here in an estate, and
Mm,
generally before this happened, you could see that I saw the cars come and go all the time, and
mm,
I guess there was a feeling that even though everyone was living very close to each other,
mm.
nobody really knew each other. Nobody, no, that's not true. Not nobody, but a kind
Sure.
of a majority of the people weren't really interacting.
Mm,
Whereas now the kind of green here is like it's more of a communal space because the people are kind of
sure.
constantly here in this area, and I guess that's what feels more natural about it. That's what makes it feel like an old fort now that all the
Sure.
families are.
Sure.
This is where
Sure.
you are.
And I suppose
These,
people are having a bit more concern for each other as well, I suppose, aren't they? It's to all our interests, I suppose, really, that we are doing that. But you're probably more inclined to look out for people that are, you know, obviously nearby and whatever, because it's this thing is all pervasive anyway, isn't it?
yeah, and I suppose it gives people a sense of a commonality between it that they're all aware without
Sure.
having to speak about it of the circumstances that
Hmm.
they're in. I mean, I definitely count myself lucky as well that I live here in a house as opposed to an apartment.
Yes.
Where a lot of people have less room and less privacy and
Yeah, for sure.
less air between them.
For
you know.
sure, for sure, for sure. So you have a new album coming out, Mick, on the 24th of July, which is it your seventh album, I think?
It is, yeah. Uh,
And
it is.
the difference this time is it's a live album, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, like there'd be no new songs per se on this one. They'd be all just live recordings of a selection from all the albums. Like,
Brilliant. And it was recorded in the Opera House in Cork, I think, isn't that correct?
yeah, yeah, it was good. It was good fun actually. I remember that gig.
Hmm.
Yeah, well, I remember it better now because I've listened to it a few times.
Sure.
Um,
And
I
you're,
kind of made
you're
a fool of myself at that gig a little bit. Some of the talking is very awkward, but I suppose that has its own kind of thing to it. I suppose.
yeah. I
Uh,
mean, it's all part of the crack, I think, isn't it?
yeah.
The
Whereas
oh yeah, no, go ahead.
sorry, maybe the delay causes us to jump across each other, but
Small bit, maybe. Yeah.
yeah, just I suppose that place makes me nervous anyway because it's
It's
such a big stage and
yeah.
has that kind of formality feel to it.
And it's the hometown gig too. Well, it's not just a hometown gig; it's the hometown gig, really, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. If you think, like, I suppose if you think about it that way, which I try to avoid, like when you think about places like that, sometimes you have a look at the posters on the wall and you can feel a little bit like an imposter
Sure.
sometimes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, there's less pressure sometimes in smaller places.
Sure. Sure. But then again, you got guys looking in the whites of the eyes in the smaller venues. Can be a bit daunting as well, I think, can't it?
It can be, but I don't know. I think I prefer it. I think I
Fair enough.
yeah.
And the proceeds of the sales of the record are they're being distributed amongst your crew and your band, because obviously I suppose to a large extent they're not working at all at the moment because of the lockdown.
Yeah.
That's quite a generous gesture, I think, isn't it?
To be honest now, like the idea came from Sheena Keane, who manages my music stuff, which is great. Fair play to her. I mean, you know,
yeah.
It's I guess it is you've put me in an awkward position here. I'm trying to be modest now. Yes, I am great, Niall. Thank you for noticing.
Well, I mean, if you were not going to say it, we're going to say it anyway, I suppose, because it is, to be fair. I mean, there are so many musicians, I suppose, and crew and techies and things who aren't working, that anything at all that helps them out, I suppose, has got to be a good thing, and has to be acknowledged, I suppose, you know.
Well, yeah, and I appreciate the people who bought it, pre-ordered and stuff like that.
Sure.
I hope that it's, hopefully it'll make some difference for the lads and ladies.
Sure, and like, given the fact that's a live album and the fact that you're not able to play gigs and things at the moment, and I mean, what do you see like in the next, assuming that the restrictions continue to lift and so on and so forth, what's the prognosis, should we say, for live music in Ireland at the moment, do you think? Are there any sort of green shoots in terms of what people are doing, or have you had any offers of?
There's a few offers come in, all right, for socially distanced gigs. Myself and Sheena are a little bit tentative about it because of, I guess you don't really want to be a part of a spike in cases, you know.
Sure.
So maybe, I don't know, I think we're inclined to wait a bit more before accepting too many offers. I think there is one offer that's being done in a quarry kind of environment.
Wow.
Where people can be quite distant from each other, but other than that, I don't think there's anything on the cards at the moment. Yeah, but I guess life will go back to normal at some stage.
Or some. So I suppose we'll adapt one way or the other. I mean, it might be this so-called new normal, but there will be. You have creative minds out there. Will come up with creative ideas for getting the show on the road again, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
You've had some very interesting covers for your records over the years, but this new one I've seen the cover art. It's very nice, very interesting. It's a painting of you, basically, isn't it?
Yeah. I met a man in New York, Rainer Andreessen. He's the artist. I was doing a gig or two there. I think it was last year, and he came along, and he asked me to come by his place and just have a drink, and just could he take a photograph, so that he could. And that's all it was. And then, I mean, he's a very talented man.
I mean, there's almost a photographic quality about it, isn't there?
Yeah, he's very good. I mean, it's a bit awkward for me. Again, it offends the modesty, like, to be looking at a painting of yourself.
Do you have it up in the hall, like, or in the kitchen or something?
Do you know, he sent me two. He was very kind. He sent what he called, I forget the word, sketches or studies, I think.
Sure.
Studies, I think he called them, and he posted them to me. They're about the size of this thing here,
right?
Me.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have anywhere nice to put them or safe to put them, and so for a while I was figuring it out, I put it up there, like, and but from you can't see it here, but the window that you can see the light coming from,
yes,
the people that walk past can look up and see that wall, and sometimes I'm sitting right here, like, doing my demos and shouting and stuff like that.
Flannery's got pictures of himself.
Yeah, he's like looking at himself while he's singing, and he's got himself in his headphones and he's singing his own little song.
Oh well, sure. He's happy. He's a bit, you know. That's brilliant.
So I took him down.
Yeah, so where have you put him since?
I don't. They're in the next room over there. I need to find somewhere safe for them.
But you still go and look at them, don't you?
No, I don't. I hardly look in the mirror for good reason as well.
Oh, brilliant. I think we're all in that boat at the moment. I think with the this stuff and this stuff going on, but
it's fluff.
It's a bit of fun. Yeah. You were involved in another project back in May in aid of Women's Aid. One of your songs was used in a video. How did that come about?
Well, Sheena knew Sam, the director of the video, and myself and Sam met in New York during the same period, actually, that I met Rayner. Mm-hmm. And we did an interview, and I sang the song in this nice recording studio, and that was it. Sam had been shared that song from Sheena. Myself and Sheena didn't really know what context that song would live in because it's quite dark in its lyrical. But I think Sam found a good way of giving it a home. So that's how that came about. Really, the song was living in kind of limbo for a good few years there.
Brilliant, and that's available to see. And as I say, it's in aid of, or donations can be made to Women's Aid based on the video. Now I've seen some clips of you online recently making what I would call furniture. I'm not sure what you'd actually call it, but they're like light fittings or light.
They're like lamps, I guess. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
But they're outdoor string lights that are put into wooden lettering.
Right. So it spells a word, or it spells.
Yeah.
How? Where did that come from?
I made one years ago for my girlfriend. It was to do with her work. I think it was this. It said love, and it was for a wedding fair or something that she was working on the arrangement of, and so when the kind of quarantine came into effect, I was just looking around for stuff to do, and I went locally here and got some pallets and tore them up, and I started making more of these things.
And you've auctioned some of them, I think, have you?
I've auctioned a few of them now. Yeah, one was the word darkness, but that was lit up for Pieta House because of their darkness into light slogan. Then there was another love sign. I've one that says fuck, but I haven't sold that one yet.
Brilliant.
I have another one that says heart, and I was thinking of I don't know. There's various different ideas for them, I suppose.
There's a whole dictionary out there. Really,
there's a whole phone book of stuff.
I didn't get to talk to you. I think it was. I'm not sure exactly. Sometime last year when Evening Train, the stage adaptation of your debut album, premiered in the Everyman in Cork. Again, another very interesting project. To what extent were you involved in it, or were you just approached about using the music, or what was the story?
I was involved a good bit, like throughout the process of it. It was a long time in the cards, really. We struggled, myself and Ursula Rani Sarma wrote the script a good few years ago.
Sure.
And she mainly was putting the effort in to get funding to do it. And it took a long time. When Sheena came on board, she really kind of put the fire under it.
Sure.
And, she got the Everyman involved in Cork, and we made the first go of it, which is great. It was good. I was involved in it. All right, I was in it. Like I was part of the kind of conceit of the band that was in the bar. I was the piano guy.
Gotcha. But had you been in? Well, you obviously had, from what you're saying there, you had been involved in the kind of conception of it as well. In obviously, apart from the music, in terms of, I mean, were you on hand during rehearsals for the script and that kind of stuff? If you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I was at the workshops that Ursula had done a few of them. One in London, and then one time we went to Washington D.C. to do one.
Wow.
That was a couple of years ago. That was maybe 5 years ago. But we did find it hard to get kind of financial support because there's so many people involved that there's a huge amount of expense on the front end.
Sure.
And yeah, it's a tough business. It's I find it hard to even financially bring a band on around doing gigs, you know, when you multiply that by 6, so, you know, 6-fold the amount of people involved.
Yeah, and I suppose with a band you can adapt and change, and you know, if it's not working, for example, dare I say that you can evolve the set or whatever. Whereas if it's a scripted play or a musical, it kind of is what it is, and if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, well, you know.
Yeah.
It's not.
Well, I guess they do edit as they go, or they give notes, and then afterwards, I think every run has its own kind of production kind of meeting, you know.
Sure.
To, like, there's a kind of a reassessment of what worked and what didn't.
And is there, or are there, I mean, in an ideal world, again, obviously without this lockdown and stuff, are there plans to carry on with it, to take it further, or to go abroad, or, well?
There's none, like, concrete, but the reaction was good enough, I think, that that it should be okay. I think that it will get another day.
Great.
Yeah, this has slowed things down now, and I guess people are unsure, and I suppose that this creates a backlog of works that were going to be on the books.
Things that should be on now will be on in 12 months' time, as such, or whatever.
Yeah. So we'll see. It was great fun. Great fun.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can remember being involved in some very, very amateur dramatics years ago myself, and there is quite a buzz about it. All right, there's a whole, everything has to come together, everything has to happen at the right time. It's a little bit different, I suppose. All right, to performing as part of a band or something, because there's that little bit of free flow on that, isn't there?
Yeah, I found that a difficult part to get accustomed to, as being in the band. Like, you couldn't make any mistakes. I'm used to making mistakes and extra bars here and there all over the place at gigs, and just people just fall in, and it's actually part of the joy of it that there's an unknown element to. Okay, this solo has been so long, and let's see how long it is now this time.
Yeah. You can't do that with
no. And then there's the fact that you can't acknowledge the fact there's people there.
Sure. Okay. Yes, that's something I didn't think of, actually. That's right. You can't turn around and talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, at a gig, it's kind of rude not to acknowledge that people are there, living, beating hearts, or in the room with you. But in this one, there's the conceit that they're just spies on a wall.
Wow. I hadn't thought of it that way. Actually, that's interesting. That's quite different, there, isn't it?
Yeah, but I guess that's what gives it the fun.
Yeah.
That you're not allowed. Any mistakes will break that barrier down.
Sure.
And everyone all of a sudden becomes human again.
Sure.
Oh, they fucked up.
Yeah. So what's on the cards next? I mean, you like you say, you've been writing and stuff at the moment. I mean, is it possible for you to, I presume it is possible for you to record another album even under these circumstances, or is that something that you're looking at doing?
Yeah, it is. Myself and Susan O'Neill brought out a song in January, a duet, and it had a good reception, so we decided to kind of keep going, and we've got enough stuff to start recording. So we're gonna see if we can do it remotely.
Cool. And
the producer is in America.
Right. Wow.
So we've been sending stuff back and forth.
And how do you find that as a process to work? I mean, do you find it okay, or do you prefer would you prefer to be in the studio with everybody?
I don't know how it's gonna go. We've only done one demo so far with Tony involved, where he's sent back some stuff that he put over it. It seems like it's gonna be okay.
Cool.
There's one element of doing vocals that is kind of good when you're at home on your own and nobody can hear you. Not even an engineer in a room next door.
Sure.
Can hear the mistakes you make. Or that you just know that no one's even looking at you.
And do you not find that difficult in the sense that, in another way, in the fact that there's nobody there to tell you that was good or that was bad, or?
Well, you kind of know yourself when you fluffed a word or fluffed the timing of something. You know that it's not really getting across, but I don't know. There's something like kind of more private about it, and I think you can hear it. Like I can often hear it in. I heard it in Lisa O'Neill's early album.
The first
demos.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I have it actually. Lisa O'Neill's Got an Album, I think was the name of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I could hear I don't know, there was the privacy of it. You were being allowed into the person's room, kind of thing.
That's interesting, yeah.
And
I suppose a lot of the stuff that you tend to do, well, not all of it, but a lot of the stuff that you do is that kind of slightly what's the word I'm looking for? Introspective, kind of quieter, kind of pulling people in sort of music anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, like especially for recordings. I mean, it does. I don't know if it works so well with live that you'd be kind of whispering into the microphone and you know. But I do think it kind of works for recordings. Because I guess there's more available to you when you're recording. You can recording yourself.
Sure.
Very up close, like Tom Waits would do it when he's doing his talky stuff.
Yes, yeah. Brilliant.
Yeah.
So apart from that, completely aside music, what have you been listening to yourself? I mean, during the lockdown, have you been taking in other music, or is it a thing you do ordinarily?
No, I don't listen to music very much. I never really throw it on. Like if I was messing around in the backyard now, I wouldn't have anything on. I'd be tipping away with if I had half a melody in my head for something, I'd be turning it over in my head trying to fit words to it.
I know a few other songwriters have said that to me. They don't tend, certainly if they're not in the middle of a creative burst themselves, they don't tend to listen to other music because it's probably a bit of a distraction, if anything else.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and do you, I mean, are you doing that thing that most of us are doing, binging Netflix? Is there anything you're watching in particular or stuck into, or?
We've been watching Modern Family for a bit of,
Right, okay.
What's it called? Just, it's not that serious,
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say
it's very funny. We watched Dave Chappelle's latest kind of release there last night.
What's that like?
It's very effective.
Right, okay.
He's very angry.
Was it in the present climate? That was probably recorded before that, but in the present climate,
No, it was recorded afterwards. It was.
Oh,
recorded,
really?
Yeah, he rushed it out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's a great mind. He's got a wonderful way of expressing himself with kind of structure and a start, beginning, and end, and things webbed and linked together.
Sure.
I like him a lot.
Great. Listen, thanks for joining us, Mick. Great talking to you. The album is out on the 24th of July, and it's available for pre-order now, and I presume on the various streaming platforms. Is there a hard copy version, or is it possible you can get a hard copy made at the moment?
Yeah, it's possible. They're on the way. Like we're going to be pressing vinyl and CDs of it,
Wow,
so you can pre-order those.
Excellent.
Brilliant. T-shirts with my bloody face on them.
Yes, I'm having one of those.
Actually, I don't know if my face is on them. Actually, I might have got away with that one.
They've probably put it on the back where you can't see it yourself.
Hopefully.
Listen, great talking to you, Mick. And you're going to sing a song for us shortly, I think, aren't you?
I will.
Excellent.
Thank you, Niall.
This week's musical treat is a very special one indeed for all our viewers and listeners. Niall, will you do the honours and introduce it for us, please?
I will. I spoke to Mick Flannery earlier this week, and it was a very special treat. He sang to me, but now we're going to share it with our listeners, and it's a song called Minnesota, which he wrote just recently during the quarantine. So it's something of an exclusive for the Southern Star. Enjoy.
Minnesota, when I was your daughter, I looked up to you. I thought that you knew all there was to know. I thought that you'd been where you had to go. Minnesota, now that I'm your mother, I see you as you are. You're not some shining star, not a destination. You're a growing child that I hope to raise right. And my hopes for you are my hopes for me. My dreams for you are my dreams for me. America, when I was your daughter, you meant the world to me. You held my every dream. You promised me protection. You promised me my freedom. America, now that I'm your mother, now that you're the younger, I'm trying to hold your hand. I hope you understand that if you don't move toward them, dreams get broken. And my hopes for you are my hopes for me. My dreams for you are my dreams for me. And I love you like a troubled child. I love you like a river wild. I love you like a mother dead. I love you like a dawning. I love you like a troubled child. I love you like a river wild. I love you like a mother dead. I love you like a dawning. America, America, my hopes for you are my hopes for me. My dreams for you are my dreams for me. And I love you like a troubled child. I love you like a river wild. I love you like a mother dead. I love you like a dawning.
That was fantastic. And thank you for listening to the Southern Star Coronavirus podcast. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our podcast, which is available on iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Acast, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you, Niall, and
Thanks,
goodbye
Scott.
to all of you for now.